Good evening, everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. Hope everyone had a great Christmas, and we're all going to have a great New Year. We're going to do the best we can to make sure that that happens. If you will all... I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, Suzanne, if you'll start with roll call, please.
Sure. Mayor Levy?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Carr?
Here.
Councilmember Case is absent. Councilmember Harvey? Here. Councilmember LeVar? Here. Councilmember Saunier?
Here.
And Councilmember Sawyer?
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Suzanne. We just want you to go back to back, so we're going to have you start with ceremonies, presentations, and appointments.
Okay. Well, we have a busy evening this evening, Council. As Council will recall, every January we appoint new seats to the various boards and committees. Each of you should have in front of you or should have read a staff report, and I'd like to go through each one of these individually and tell you who's here with us in the audience. You can have them come up and ask them questions, and then at the end I can swear everybody in and do their oaths of office at the same time, if that's okay with Council.
Sounds perfect.
Okay. So let's start with the Board of Review. So the Board of Review, the alternate member on the Board of the Review is Jim Olson, and I see him back there in the corner, and he is applying for appointment as a regular member after serving as the alternate member since August 18th of 2016. The terms on this committee is 3 years in length, and this term would end January 1st, 2022. Mr. Olson will fill David Dernbach's spot, who has resigned from the committee, and the board has held 2 meetings in 2018, and Mr. Olson attended 1 meeting. And then we have also, at the same time, we have local contractors. I see Jeff Smith, I saw him come in, and Matt Cockcroft. Is he here? Okay, Matt is not here. They have submitted applications for the Board of Review, and the staff recommends that they be appointed as alternates to the Board of Review. So as I said, Jeff Smith is here and Mr. Olson is here if you have any questions for them.
Sounds good. Let me understand. Automatically, Jim is going to be appointed?
It's staff's recommendation if council approves.
Okay. And I saw Jeff's here. Jeff, you're applying, you don't want to be an alternate necessarily. You'd like to apply for the real position. Is that correct?
It doesn't really matter to me.
Why don't you do me a favor, come on up and give us your name and address and tell us what you really want so we make sure we do this right.
I'm Jeff Smith, live at 1380 Rampart Range Road. I serve on the Teller County Board of Review, and this position came up, and I thought it'd be kind of complimentary to have both of them, so I could put my 2 cents in several places. It really doesn't matter to me if I'm an alternate or a regular member. It's whatever position you have open. Alternates still can talk.
You don't see any conflict of interest being on the Board of Review of both county and city?
I'm on Planning Commission too, so.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate everything you're doing for us, and I just want to make that clear to everybody what your intentions were.
Good. Well, and so just I would like to serve, and I think, being a Class A general contractor, I can bring a little bit of knowledge to the board.
Sounds good. Great. Thanks very much. Thank you. Jim, would you like to come up and say anything? Okay, I'll take that as a no for right now. Council, do we have any questions about this process? Everybody understand where we're at? And staff has recommended Jim, and we're going to vote for Jeff and Matt to both be alternates. And if I can have a motion in that regard, we can move forward.
So moved.
Second. And a second. Suzanne?
Thank you. Carr?
Yes.
Harvey? Yes. LeVar? Yes. Levy?
Yes?
Soinier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you. Council and Mayor, the second board we have is the Board of Adjustment. And I think most of you know Carrie Kilgore. She's been here before council. She's not with us this evening, but you will probably remember her from past council meetings. She is applying for appointment as a regular member. She's currently an alternate member to this committee. She would like to fill John Hanlon's slot, which John has resigned, and his term goes until January 1st of 2021. The board held 6 meetings since Ms. Kilgore's appointment in 2018, and Carrie attended 3 of the 6 meetings. And then local resident Jerry Smith, and if you can just raise your hand, sir, there he is. Jerry Smith has submitted a new application to the Board of Adjustment, and we would propose that he be appointed as an alternate member with that slot expiring on January 1st, 2021.
Sounds great. Thank you very much. Carrie's not here. Mr. Smith, I don't think I know you very well. Would you like to come up and say a few words?
I don't know you either.
Good, we're even, is right.
My name's Jerry Smith. We moved to Woodland Park just a little bit over a year ago. We live at 585 Sunny Glen Court in Sunny Glen neighborhood. And I know she's our neighbor. And I was nominated by Brooke Smith to be on the Board of Adjustment. Prior to that, I didn't really know what that board did or anything, but I've done some research. I think this would be a great way for me to learn a little bit more about the city and the activities of the city, and then just an opportunity to give back to the city as well.
Would you agree then that maybe the first spot for you might be, a great spot would be as an alternate, and then move forward?
Yes, I think that'd be perfect.
Great. Council? Questions? Great, thanks very much. We really appreciate your participation, and you'll join one of many, many, many of us that volunteer for the community, so welcome.
Look forward to it.
Thank you. Okay, motion then will include both, to make Carrie Kilgore a standard member and Jerry Smith will be an alternate member to the Board of Adjustment. So moved. Suzanne?
Thank you. Harvey?
Yes.
Labar? Yes. Levy?
Yes.
Soinier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Okay, committee number 3 is Keep Woodland Park Beautiful. And that, we have an applicant. Her name is Susan Bronham, and I believe she's in the audience. If she could, there she is. Raise her hand so we know it's her. She submitted her application, and there's no terms. This is just a working group, and so there are no terms, and staff would recommend she be appointed to the Keep Woodland Park Beautiful Committee.
Will? Val?
I wonder if the applicant would want to come up and introduce herself briefly. Name and address, please. Thank you.
I'm Susan Brannon, and I live at 1550 Chippewa Trail, and I've been here a little more than 20 years. And when I went to the placemaking meeting that we had on December 4th, I was enthralled with the process, and I'm like, okay, it's time to give back a little bit. So that's why I'm here, and I'm excited about this position.
And that's why we're all smiling. Thank you very much. Council, any questions for Susie? We appreciate it. Thanks very much for your service. Okay, we only have one applicant for one opening. We need a motion.
We do.
Motion to appoint Susan Branham as a member of Keep Woodland Park Beautiful.
Second. Thank you. Suzanne?
Thank you. Harvey? Yes. Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Soinier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Great, thank you. Susie, thank you very, very much. I love the way you got here. That means we're doing something right. So thank you very much.
Okay, on to Planning Commission Council. The 3 incumbents, Ken Hartsfield, Ellen Carrick, and Lee Brown, have all reapplied for a reappointment. Ken and Lee are here with us in the audience. Ellen is currently on vacation, so she's not with us this evening. There have been no new applications received, and the terms for the commissioners are 3 years in length, so their terms will end January 1st, 2022. There were 12 meetings in 2018, and Ken Hartsfield attended all of those meetings, 100% of them, Ellen 92% of them, and Lee Brown 67%. Staff would recommend that the 3 incumbents be reappointed.
Thank you. Council? Noel, why don't you give us a motion? Make it easy.
Motion to approve Planning Commission applicants.
Second.
Suzanne?
Labar,
Yes.
Levy,
Yes.
Soinier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously. Would you like the 2 gentlemen to stand so everyone knows who they are?
Absolutely. Most of us know who they are.
Haley.
We're going to swear them in soon. We'll know who they are.
Okay.
Okay, 4 down and 1 to go.
Okay. This is Historical Preservation Committee. We have a member applying for reappointment, and that's Mr. Larry Black, who is sitting back there. I think everybody here knows Larry. And the terms on this committee are 2 years in length, and this term will end 2021, January 1. This committee had 11 meetings during 2018, and Larry Black attended 9 meetings or had 91% attendance. Local resident Jim Unruh has submitted a new application for Historical Preservation Committee, and newly appointed member Craig Haney recently resigned due to personal reasons, so Mr. Unruh is able to fill Mr. Haney's slot, which also expires 2021. And I believe Mr. Unruh is here. There he is.
Mr. Unruh, would you like to come forward? I don't know if all council knows you. Just say hello and introduce yourself.
I'm Jim Unruh. We've lived here 5 years. We live at 1141 Royal Oak Court. But before that even, several years before that, we've been members of the historic. So, I mean, my wife and I have been antique dealers for over 40 years. So we're interested in history and definitely the history in this area. So it's a pleasure to join this group.
Well, thanks very much. I'll tell you, your counterpart there, Larry Black, is the greatest resource in the entire world. He knows more about Woodland Park than all of us put together, at least. So, thank you very much. Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, council, we have 2 for 2, so
No, since this is my favorite committee, move to reappoint Mr. Black and appoint Mr. Unruh. And Mr. Unruh, I'm looking forward to working with you on the Historical Preservation Committee. I see Sally's grinning. This is good.
I need a second.
second. And a second from Hillary.
Okay. Levy,
Yes.
Soinier,
Yes.
Sawyer,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Harvey,
Yes.
Labar.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Would you like to swear everyone in?
I think that would be great.
Appropriate?
I think if we can just call all of the applicants that have been appointed up front, we'll get it
Sounds good.
taken care of. Do it all at once. We'll have you stand here so you can face the audience, and no one likes to take a picture for the paper. Everyone else stand.
Bob doesn't care.
Right, Norma? Yeah, good for you?
She can't see me, so
I'm hoping.
She's your hand, and then just say aye. And
We can't see her, she can't see me.
Aye.
that's what I hear. So I was taught in Boy Scouts.
That's good. And repeat after me. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United
She's over here.
States and the state of Colorado, the charter and ordinances of the city of Woodland Park, and that I will faithfully perform the duties of the office of whatever committee you guys are appointed to, state the committee.
How was your New Year's?
Sounds good to me. Upon which I'm about to enter. Excellent.
77.
Congratulations and welcome.
Jesus, that's terrible.
Yeah, it was brutal.
Okay. Maybe I can go in the back with you guys so we don't take too much time up and have you sign your oath. We do. We have no problem. Susie, yes.
I'm on that committee, and I don't have any of that
You
stuff.
don't have a grabber?
I didn't get any of that stuff. I guess they figure I'm a short timer.
I know that won't take long, but it just kind of reminds me of that TV show now that's so popular, This Is Us. Really, this is us. This is what Woodland Park's all about. And again, I said it before, I'll continue to say it. In 2019, we're going to make sure that this is us. And so thank you all very much. Thanks to everybody that just got appointed, and we look forward to a great year. Okay, shall we wait for Suzanne? We probably should, because she keeps us on track. Is that okay? We're going to wait.
Since it's hers, yeah.
We'll wait for you, Suzanne.
So I could quote, that's a terrible makeup you have to do.
Oh my God. It's the busiest day of the year.
I know.
And the roads weren't even bad in the springs now.
So they just, people just bail because...
Okay, we will move on to no additions, deletions, or corrections, and move on to the consent calendar.
Mayor, we have item...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Collins here to present this evening.
And Judge Christensen is here.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name's Carla Collins, and I'm the court clerk of the Municipal Court. I'm here tonight to make a...
Well, 1 second, Carla. Chrissy, could you turn hers up just a little bit? We just can't hear. Okay. And then just if you guys could just be really, really quiet. Okay.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you better.
Okay. I'm here to make a recommendation for the deputy judge of Woodland Park. And I can honestly tell you that now I know what my customers that come to court feel like standing on this side of the dais. That's a little nerve-wracking. But anyway, on the week of December 10th, several councilmen, the city manager, the city clerk, Judge McClintock, and myself conducted interviews, and we have chosen Sarah Christensen and recommend that you approve this. We believe that she's going to bring a lot of great experience. She has many years of trial experience, and I think she's going to bring a lot of resources to the city. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Sarah Christensen.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Christensen, and I would be very honored to have the privilege to serve as your backup municipal judge.
Well, thank you very much for being here. I was fortunate to be part of the process, as was Val and Carol. And the thing that stood out for me, honestly, Your Honor, is your compassion for kids. And you know, in this day and age, we've got some issues, right, for all of us. And so we need people like you helping direct and providing that leadership. So I know that's where you're going to make a big impact among other places, but for me, and I'll let the other council members speak, but for me that was the thing that really stood out, and we really appreciate your willingness to be a backup judge, if you will. You'll have plenty of action, I'm sure. Carol?
You had me at your cover letter when you quoted Atticus Finch, so welcome to the bench.
Thank you very very much.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming in and volunteering to help, and I think we have a pretty good plan to have transition that are going to be easier than with your being our backup. So I appreciate you volunteering to do this.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Okay, council, any questions? Then we just need a motion.
Move to approve the appointment of Judge Christensen as our new deputy municipal judge.
Second.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Thank you. Sonier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Ron. And we're going to administer the oath of office. Good. Oh, Suzanne wasn't there.
Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Sarah Christensen,
I, Sarah Christensen,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the state of Colorado,
the state of Colorado,
the charter and ordinances of the city of Woodland Park,
charter and ordinances of the city of Woodland Park,
and faithfully perform the duties of the office of
faithfully perform the duties of the office of
Assistant Municipal Judge,
Assistant Municipal Judge,
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am privileged to be about to enter.
Congratulations. Thank you. Here it is.
Is that legal in purple?
Question, I'm going to look that up.
If the clerk says it is, it's legal.
There you go. Clerk's got some power.
Yeah, we got more than we got.
No question. Okay. Suzanne, this is your meeting today, so.
Sure is. Okay, this evening we have the consent calendar before you, council. And the first item on the consent calendar is our minutes from the December 6th City Council meeting. The second item are the November 2018 Statement of Expenditures. And then the third item, I would like to just go into a little detail for you about. It's a request for permission to serve alcohol at Meadowwood Sports Complex. This is something we've done, as council may recall, the last few years. We had an organization named Bleed Hockey, and they would have a hockey tournament, and they would serve beer. The hockey tournament's been taken over now by Mr. Help me remember your name, sir. Mrs.?
She won't. She's not here.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, they're not
She's
here
not
this
here.
evening. So it's been taken over by them. It's the same setup that we've had in the past. And the reason this is brought to council is because the city ordinance says no alcohol in the park unless council approves. And so that's why we need to bring it to council for their permission. Of the past 3 or 4 years this tournament's done, we've had no issues, no calls to the police, or anything that's gone wrong. Staff would recommend that council approve this.
So that's just in the slight difference from Memorial Park types and cultural center and things.
Correct. This is not a liquor license because they're only having beer for the players. They're going to have them in the
Warming
months and just for the players.
And they don't fight? Come on, what kind of hockey is this?
Yeah. So it's not actually a liquor license. It's just approving them to have liquor,
Thank you.
or beer, I should say. So that's the consent calendar.
Great. Any questions, council, other than that? If not, we need a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Motion to approve the consent calendar as written.
Second from Mayor Pro Tem Carr. Suzanne?
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Sonier?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne. Public comment on items not on the agenda. I have a couple of people that are signed up for the public hearings, but nobody else. Is there anyone else that would like to speak at this time relative to anything other than items that are on the agenda? Okay, if not, then we're going to move on to unfinished business, which we have none of, and ordinances on initial posting, and here you go again.
Thank you. This is an initial posting, so there's no staff report. More detail will follow for the public hearing, but council is again familiar with this. Every year, at the start of the new year, the city must declare their instrument for public notification process, and we again would like to have it be the courier. As council will recall, we passed some charter amendments, and now we just publish by title, and the ordinance is on the website, and this will be before you in a public hearing next council meeting. So I'm just asking for approval on the initial posting.
Thank you. Question.
Just a quick question. Are we fully streamlined the way we talked about it in the charter, et cetera?
We are. We're currently just
So
doing...
our current status is much as we're going to do until otherwise.
Correct, and we've seen quite a bit of cost savings on the year that we've started publishing just by title only, as opposed to the whole ordinance in the paper.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, anything else? Call for a motion to consider ordinance 1340, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Ms. Harvey.
Thank you.
Suzanne?
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar?
Yes.
Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, before we move forward, council members that use electronic devices to access the materials relevant to the public hearing before us, be assured that it is the common practice of this city council that these devices are not being used for texting, emailing, or other communications during these public hearings. And that said, we will move forward and considering Highlands in Paradise. And Laura Pellegrino, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor Levy, members of council. My name is Laura Pellegrino. I'm the city planner, and tonight we are here to discuss the Highlands in Paradise final plat. It is subdivision number 1806006. It's a request by North Peak Properties, LLC, who is the property owner, and Mark II, LLC, who is the applicant, and Mark McNabb and various consultants in support of Mark McNabb is here tonight in the audience and is available for questions after my presentation. It is an application for a major subdivision of 7.07 acres into 9 residential lots and a 50-foot wide private road entitled Highlands Court. Located in the west half of Section 19, Township 12, South, Range 68 west of the 6 p.m. in the city of Woodland Park, Teller County. On December 13, 2018, the Planning Commission did have a public hearing on this proposed plat and did recommend that it come forward to council for approval. And tonight is January 3rd, and it is the sixth council public hearing on this final plat. This is a brief, this is a map showing the location in general of the site, and you can see that it is east of the city, very close to the eastern boundary of the city, which is highlighted by this dashed line. So that is the general location. Of course, here's Highway 24 and Highway 67 going north. This is an aerial photo of the 7-acre site that's proposed for subdivision. This is as it currently exists right now, minus all the snow that's out there right now. Here is Majestic Parkway going east with the roundabout, and Highlands Court will come right off of this stub from that roundabout and go up into this area with the 9 lots proposed, which I'll show you. And you can see here some of the already platted lots off of Spacious Skies on both sides. Lachlan Way was a plat for approximately 22 lots that you recently approved just a few months ago. And then to the south here is all unplatted at this moment. So that gives you an idea of some of the open space that's in there right now, and it is a highly developable parcel of land. This is an excerpt from our zoning map for this area. The site that we are looking at, the 7 acres, is shown in this oval area right here. So everything that's in yellow is zoned suburban residential, and this site is within the suburban residential zone. And you can see that here is the Woodland Park High School, the Gateway Elementary School, and the Aquatic Center up in this area, downhill from where we are on our current site. This is a master plan that was done for this area. Approximately 197 acres was master planned, and this shows a potential layout for that 197 acres. The site that we are looking at is highlighted in red, and it was master planned for 9 lots, which is what is proposed tonight. This is a preliminary plat that was approved in 2008. The preliminary plat goes into a little bit more detail than the master plan does. The 9 lots that we are looking at tonight is highlighted in red, and you can see that the configuration is pretty much what the applicant is proposing in his final plat. These 9 lots are the last lots to be finally platted in this entire preliminary plat, which showed approximately 50 to 60 lots to be platted. And it will complete this preliminary plat. So again, the 9 lots was preliminarily platted, and the applicant is conforming to that preliminary plat with his proposal. This is the final plat, an excerpt of the final plat. The entire final plat is 2 pages and was attached to your staff report. This shows you 9 lots, ranging in size from approximately 25,000 here for Lot 1 to a total of the biggest lot, which is 48,571 square feet. Highlands Court, coming right here off of Majestic Parkway, will be a private road defined in a tract of land that will be privately owned and maintained. And these lots are all going to be built upon and sold for residences, single-family residences. This is a site photo taken in the summertime from Majestic Parkway looking east into the site. So there is the end of the currently built road at the other side, on the east side of the roundabout, looking up, and you can see the rough in for Highlands Court going up here. And this is the land that will be divided into the 9 lots. This is a photo from Highlands Court when we're stepping onto the actual Highlands Court right-of-way, looking east into the site, and you can see that they've started stubbing out for the water, and there's been some construction work going on. We have approved a zoning development permit for that infrastructure work. Water and sewer lines were already in place, and so they are continuing on with the next phases. This is at the top of the cul-de-sac, that will be the cul-de-sac of Highlands Court, looking west down Highlands Court into Majestic Parkway and further west. And this is up from Laughlin Way, which was the most recent plat that this council approved, looking down over, this will be the top of the Highlands Court cul-de-sac, looking down over Highlands Court and then into Majestic Parkway and into the rest of the neighborhood. So this kind of gives you an idea of the open space that surrounds both sides of Highlands Court and the fact that it is an entirely highly plattable and developable 7 acres of land. So staff did referrals of this plat to various agencies, both within the city of Woodland Park and outside of the city. The Public Works Department, the city engineer, the Utilities Department, Parks and Recreation all looked at this and provided comments, and the comments have been all in the staff report that you received. IREA provided comments, Northeast Teller County Fire Protection District looked at it, Black Hills Energy, Century Link, and TDS Cable all looked at this application and had no comments or concerns. We did adjacent property owner letters to everyone within 150 feet of the boundary of this plat. The property has been signed with a notification for tonight's hearing, and a notice was in the Pikes Peak Courier for tonight's hearing. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board did review this application and recommended fees in lieu of parkland for this particular subdivision for a total of $16,578, of which the applicant has already submitted. These fees will go for construction in Chimney Park or other recreational facilities or amenities within the Paradise Estates or Thunderbird subdivisions, which is this community on the eastern slopes of the city. So staff did a full compliance review with the municipal code. We looked at the final plat as completed. They did submit a fully drawn-out 9-lot proposal that was done by a surveyor, meets all of our final plat criteria, and they did submit engineering plans, drainage report, which was approved, and they've already begun work on it. They've submitted their park capital fees for $16,578. And then we looked at the design standards for the lot layout. We believe it's a well-designed subdivision conforming not only to the master plan, but the preliminary plat that was approved, with lots of adequate provision for buildings, services, and utilities within these 9 lots, within these 7 acres. We do believe that the site is suitable for development with adequate services available, potential for grading, erosion control, and it is adjacent to fire protection, utility connections, and adequate drainage is available. Highlands Court is proposed as a private road, which will be maintained by the homeowners association and the members of that 9-lot community. Adequate frontage exists on each lot, which is a minimum of 40 feet at least for each lot. The name Highlands Court has been approved by all the various emergency services. Street numbers will be assigned when building permits come in for each individual house. We do have 15-foot wide easements along the subdivision boundary and along Highlands Court for the provision of utilities. And there's also a 5-foot easement on each side of an interior lot line, again, for the provision of utilities and/or other services that need to go into those. All lots are buildable and adequately sized for single-family residences, and the land use intensity ratios do not exceed the maximum 20% site cover for the entire subdivision. Staff does find that it complies with all of the standards and the design criteria of the municipal code for a final plat for a 9-lot subdivision. Planning Commission is recommending approval, and therefore staff does recommend 2 motions related to this plat. Motion number 1 is that City Council approve the Highlands and Paradise final plat based on the findings described in the staff report, that the Planning Commission does also recommend approval, and that any testimony and evidence provided at the public hearing tonight. Subject to only one condition for this plat, and that is recording of the covenants with the plat. The applicant has submitted covenants to staff, and we have reviewed them and have no concerns with them whatsoever. And they will get recorded with the recordation of the plat. And motion number 2 relates to the guarantee, and it is that the city accept the guarantee provided by the applicant in the form of an irrevocable letter of credit in the amount of approximately $156,800+ as presented. That concludes my staff report. Mayor Levy, the applicant is here if there are any questions, and I believe his consultants are here as well if you have specific technical questions.
Great, thanks for the presentation, Laura. A couple of questions from me and we'll move forward. Usually you give us a vote on the Planning Commission in terms of what the vote was. Can you go over that for us?
Minutes of the Planning Commission meeting were attached to the staff report. And let me just...
And I have them. I just want it in the record.
Yep, I believe that the...
6 to 1.
Yeah, I think it was 6 to 1.
It was.
Mr. Penland voted negatively to it.
It was moved by Commissioner Hartsfield and seconded by Commissioner Schroeder. Motion passed 6 to 1 with Commissioner Penland voting against the motion.
Great, thank you for that. Council? Go ahead, Noel.
I was hoping to talk to the applicant.
Well, we'll do that. Let's see if anyone has questions first, and then we'll bring the applicant up. If not, Val, do you have anything before that?
Just a quick one. Maybe I can defer either way. I'm curious about the grade from top to bottom and the drainage considerations. We've had some issues over in that neighborhood, at least. I'm sure Councilman Harvey is aware of those too. And so I'm interested in the grade. Visually, it didn't look like much of a grade, but those are considerations. Can you give me any?
I can tell you that it slopes from the east to the west, and all of the drainage will come through Highlands Court into the curb and gutter and into the drainage system that was already constructed with the previous platting. For any more detail, I would defer to Mike Bramlett, who is here and is the consultant.
Thank you.
Great. Well, then let's... Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Carol.
I think Laura can answer this. I'm not familiar with any other private road in that total development. Can you explain how that will work?
You're absolutely correct, Commissioner, or Councilmember Harvey. This entire subdivision, and a lot of what you see in this master plan has not been built yet, but this interior portion is all public roads. So this is the first bit of a private road that we're seeing in this neighborhood. It's not the first private road in the city of Woodland Park, however. And a good example and a similar size subdivision would be Cirrus Court off of Trawl Road, where it's entirely private. And it is a private road, so it's owned, in this case, it's a separate tract, so it'll be owned by, currently it's Park State Bank. And it will continue, it will stay in that ownership until it transfers to the homeowners association when the homeowners association gets established. And then the homeowners association will be responsible for maintaining that road, which includes plowing it, snow plow, maintaining the asphalt surface.
Curb and gutter as well?
Everything related to and within that tract would be part of the road, which would be maintained by the private association.
And you have seen the covenants. Are they similar to the covenants of the other filings?
They're virtually identical to filing 4, which was the most recent subdivision, and it has provision for the fact that this is a private road and that the HOA will maintain it.
I see Mr. Perry in the audience.
We'll get back to that.
Okay.
So Carol kind of was thinking what I was thinking, why it was private, and sometimes when you go private, you would put a gate. You'd have a gated community. Was there any talk about that or any plans to make that a gated community?
It's a possibility, and I think the applicant can discuss his strategy with you. A gate was not proposed, but it could happen.
Okay, and do they have to go through any more special steps, or
No,
gate
the
is their
gate
gate?
just has to be accessible by the Fire Protection District, which is just usually a locked breakthrough gate that they can get through, or that they have the combination to. But other than that, the road itself is built to public standards, so if at any time they want to dedicate it to the city, it would comply with our standards and we would be willing to accept it.
Okay.
So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. That said, Mark, would you like to come forward with your representatives and we'll ask some questions of you?
Hi, I'm Mike Bramlett. I'm with JR Engineering at 5475 Tech Center Drive in Colorado Springs. I also live at 831 Majestic Parkway. I'm going to discuss some drainage topics, and then Mark will come up and address the other questions the council may have. So, JR, when we first took over this project for Mark, it was 2 projects, Lachlan Way, which was filing 4, and this project, Highlands. Filing 4 was where all the heavy lifting on drainage was done. That's where we analyzed the whole basin, and we looked at the ponds, and we looked at it in a much more global sense. When we got to Highlands here, we were much more specific. So our drainage report was an addendum to the previous drainage report, site-specific. To answer Councilman Carr's question, the slopes on this road are, I think, a maximum 8%. Lachlan Way has a maximum of 12%. So it's, as you go up the slope, it gets more steep. This is actually a fairly gradual slope. With that said, you're still going to have grade and you have drainage. And so when we looked at it, in the original preliminary plan concept, the original drainage report concept, the water was going to funnel down, all the water would funnel down into Majestic, what at that time was called Majestic Court, now it's Highlands Court. One thing we added to this design was we put an inlet outside of the roadway area in an easement to where we could collect the water and get it in the storm sewer system that runs straight up Highlands Court. Get that in there so we didn't have as much water in the roadway. There was 2 benefits to that. Is the water in the roadway funnels down to the traffic circle in Majestic Court. There's 2 inlets right there at those two curves. One is 22 feet in length and one is 16 feet in length. And as part of our report, we checked the flows and the capacity of those inlets and found them to be adequate and in compliance with the city standards. Those were the two real things that we were interested in. The ground topographically just all funnels into Highlands Court, as you would expect, looking at the picture. Happy to answer any other questions on drainage that you may have.
Cool.
Will this relieve any of the drainage that's occurring now in Majestic Parkway?
You know,
or intensify it?
It won't intensify it. The issues, we had met with the neighborhood as part of Lockland Way, and the issues in Majestic Parkway is, one, no one likes the existing detention pond outlet design that was 25 years old now. We would have all preferred, even me, to not have it discharged to Majestic Parkway, but we haven't changed that. We did make the pond, as part of Lockland Way, larger. Some of the issues on Majestic Parkway have been with uncontrolled stormwater runoff, sediment runoff. And that has not been on this parcel. It hasn't been on Lockland Way parcel. And I think there are solutions to that are being investigated for the unplatted parcel to the east.
Would you, since you brought up, would you describe a good solution for that detention pond?
Yeah, well...
Or should I ask Kip that question?
No, we
That's what I thought.
There's some money involved in the solution. The solution would be to pipe it away from the pond. It would require a lot of neighbors to provide an easement to pipe down the back of their lots to the first cul-de-sac. I don't know that we have a map that shows the first cul-de-sac, and after it got past the first cul-de-sac, it could probably go into the open ditch, which would be an extension of the open ditch. But that's a very expensive proposition. It would impact properties, but that's the only solution other than the one that's out there today.
And you live right there. Is it just because it's an eyesore more than anything else?
Eyesore.
It doesn't cause any problems?
No, it's not a problem. There was a home down off of Majestic Parkway farther down that had made a statement that water had come over the curb there, but truthfully, when I look at that, and I would love to talk to Dan more specifically about his home damage, it appeared to me that water was coming down the other way and was jumping the curb into his lot. Since that's what I saw. And my neighbor has had we had property damage on my lot during construction, which we solved with the city and the developer Wilbur. And it was the addition of the temporary sediment control ponds on the unplatted parcel that really helped. And then there's some erosion control issues too.
Great, thank you. Council, anything else before we bring up Mark? Thank you very much. Thanks for making it understandable for us. Mark, go ahead and introduce yourself first, and then I got a question before you start.
Okay, I'm Mark McNabb. I live at 206 Starlight Heights in Divide, and we're contractors and developers here.
Great, thanks. Laura said that Park State is still owner of that property. Can you set us straight on that so we have the record straight?
Yes, it's North Peak Properties is the owner.
North Peak Properties. Thank you. Okay, questions for Mark?
I think you heard our questions, so let's see what else.
Well, I'll just make a few comments that hopefully will include the questions and some of the questions we had from the Planning Commission. So I'll just sort of go through it and then go back and answer specific questions. The Highlands in Paradise will be a full HOA to maintain pristine condition ongoing, as well as controlling restrictions. One of the things we're going to do in the HOA, which you can do in an HOA and you can't do outside of it, is limit rental units. So the owners of these homes can only rent their home out based on the HOA restrictions, which historically is very minimal compared to regular subdivisions. For example, Longs Point is a full HOA with a private road over by the golf course. We're finishing that project out. And they just reduced their 24 units from 20% available to rent to 10%. The idea is to control quality, to do that. And so we would have that control. Control repairs and upgrades over time pertaining to colors, selections, architectural continuity, control of the commons areas for maintenance and improvements, consistent landscape design around the dwellings and common areas, superior accountability for road and right-of-way maintenance, mandatory insurance protection that's not shortchanged. That's really important. I've done water flood insurance mitigation for 28 years as a contractor, and about all the homes I've done, probably 75 were underinsured. HOAs are very particular about insuring for the proper amount, which protects the quality of the homes. So that's an important issue. There's been comments in the past that these homes would not be up to the standard of the homes around them. Our base price is starting at $650,000. We have one right now. Our first home was $850,000, and the second one that we have sold is $700,000, and going up from there. So it's very high quality homes. The private road issue. I have worked on 53 HOAs as a contractor in 40 years. And out of 53, every one of them had a private road. It goes along with the concept of the HOA. So that's the only reason we're asking for it. When we did Laughlin, we specifically did not look to have an HOA with a private road because there was access to national forest, which allows all the community everywhere around to go up to the cul-de-sac by the water tank and get onto national forest. So it's critical to follow through with what everybody's been doing for the last 35 years there. Granted, people have been walking up to this property, but they don't own it. So that's been allowed. Now the owners would like to, to develop the property this way. So we specifically have Laughlin as open to national forest. This road is just a little over 400 feet long, dead end. So it's not really any good reasons for it to be open to the public per se, because you can drive up 400 feet, turn around, come out. Or you can walk up 400 feet, can't walk across any of the lots, and walk back out. Whereas you can go around Laughlin, come around, go up to National Forest, and do what you want to do. We're going 67% more construction of the road than the city requires. The city requires a 3-inch pavement. We're putting 5 inches of pavement in. That's a 70-year road. So one of the questions last time was, what happens if you put in this road, the city's not maintaining it, and in 20 years it's dirt? Well, that was a little weird comment, but this is going to be way surpassing the city. And because of that, the city could actually take this over if the HOA wants to do that in the future. We're building it, we could have it narrower because it's a private road. We're building it full width. We're doing everything specifically so it meets and then supersedes the city requirements.
Or can I interrupt for a second? The road through Paradise up to Highlands is stone, cobblestone, whatever you call that. What's the thought on not going the same route, same materials on that 400-foot road?
The market's totally different now. there's no way we could spend $500,000 on cobblestone. It just isn't there now. These homes in the area, $700,000 to $800,000 is where the market is. Most of our customers are right there, and it's a challenge to get something built for those dollars today. So there's no way we could afford cobblestone.
What's 5 inches of asphalt cost you?
Well, it's about this particular road will be about $48,000 more than 3-inch. So that's extra cost that we're putting in, but it's not the same cost as cobblestone.
Understand. Thank you.
The other thing is, with the fact that the road will be private, the city still gets their full taxes on the road, but they don't have to maintain it, plow it, no cost to the city. So for the city, it's a win-win. Then the other question that came up was traffic through Majestic Park during construction. This is really a legitimate question, because that's the main route coming from Colorado Springs up to these projects. We're not the only ones building up there. There's other builders building up there. And so we've been able to team with Ben and the city that we're going to put in a radar speed limit sign at the bottom part of the Majestic, so that when you turn on there to go up to construction sites, that'll be blinking. We'll probably put 20 miles an hour instead of 25, just to keep the anxious people from going faster. We are considering other type of sign that includes construction traffic, so they see it identifies them along with that sign. So we have, the best situation possible going up the hill.
Mark, where did you say you were going to get the radar? Where are you going to get the radar from?
The city.
The city? We only have one. We have 2 now? Okay.
So I think that will be a really good thing for the next period of time to control the traffic going on.
How long do you anticipate the construction will be?
A long time.
Well, we
Any
have
idea?
34 lots up there to improve. There's other contractors that will be improving other lots up there. I'm looking at 3.5 years.
Yeah. Thank you.
So that's what we're going to do with traffic. And the other thing we would urge the residents, especially Majestic, to do is to call us and let's have communication, because if you see someone going up, a lot of trucks are ID'd, you can tell where they're from, report it to us. Then we can work with a vendor, call them and say, hey, the people are speeding. We can't set somebody out there just to watch and control it. But that's something we'd like to do. We'd like to work with the community on this to be able to accomplish this with as little damage as possible. That was basically it.
Questions? We'll go to public comment, and Mark, if you'll just step aside, maybe stay there, you might have to answer a question or two. And I've got 2 people signed up, and if there's anybody else that would like to speak on this topic after these first 2, just please let me know. I think I'm reading this right. Deborah Frost. If you'll come up when you approach the podium and give us your name and your address, please.
Never did bring used to be a shirt. Okay, I'm Deborah Frost. I'm at 800 Majestic Parkway, and my comments are in the form of a letter, and I have a copy of the letter to distribute this way.
Thank you.
Councilmember Sawyer always likes extra copies, so.
First, I would like to say that I was actually not at the December 13th planning meeting. We had 3 different things to attend that night with the holidays, and my granddaughter's choir concert went out. So I got some of the information in the letter from the report published by the Courier. For instance, in my opening statement, I referred to 2 no votes regarding the vote on the subject, and apparently there was only 1. I wasn't there, and then that was apparently incorrect. I'm sorry. No advantage to being short, I'm telling you. So if there are other inaccuracies, I went with some of the information that was in fact reported publicly, as I was unable to attend. So I am in agreement with Planning Commissioner Jerry Penland and apparently not John DeVoe, who voted no to the current plat proposal regarding Highlands in Paradise, which incorporates a private street in the midst of a public street development. And I'm asking the Town Council for a no vote that aligns with his, or a modification of the plat that mandates Highlands Court Road will remain a public roadway. The reason I ask for your no vote or a plat modification is that I agree with and support the primary points that were raised by Mr. DeVoe and Mr. Penland. A private road in the middle of an established public road neighborhood makes absolutely no sense. In reading the article published by the Courier, which described the last Planning Commission meeting, I am disturbed by the circular and no information manner in which Mr. McNabb explained the benefit and purpose of the private road when asked. He is quoted as saying that having a private road makes sense to this HOA. I assume he is referring to the yet unestablished HOA that will be populated by yet unknown persons who will presumably purchase yet unbuilt properties and maintain them through an HOA of yet undetermined monthly or yearly expenses, all 9 of them, bearing the expenses of road maintenance, snow removal, street-side landscaping, and enforcement of whatever else is in their HOA stipulation. I suggest it contradicts economic reality to build on the supposition that a 9-house HOA in the middle of an existing neighborhood is a sustainable entity. In addition, Mr. McNabb's justification that the private road makes sense to the HOA is like asking the Hershey Company why Hershey candy bars are so popular and getting the response that Hershey bars are so popular because they're made to appeal to people. It is clearly parameters, architectural design requirements, and what I am calling a built-in friendliness factor. This built-in friendliness factor is demonstrated by the lack of perimeter or front fencing and openness for any hiker, dog walker, bicycler, etc. to be encouraged to travel our roads and enjoy the beauty of this neighborhood and this area. A road specifically designated as private in the middle of this neighborhood is not consistent with the neighborhood standards, and I do not think it should be allowed. Mr. McNabb is quoted in the Courier as saying that the Highlands Court Road offers no access through the, quote, new neighborhood, unquote, to anything beyond, including the Pike National Forest. Given this statement, I suggest that rather than a private road designation, a sign at the beginning of the street should be posted and simply state, no outlet. It seems to me that this would be a simpler and equally effective manner of informing non-residents there is nowhere to go on Highlands Court except to one of those 9 houses. Secondly, I feel that developers' use of the word neighborhood for a one-street, 9-house construction area is misleading. Neighborhood, quote-unquote, is described by the online Google Dictionary as a district, especially one forming a community within a town or city. I find the key phrase in this definition to be forming a community. The fact of the matter is that Highlands Court does not qualify as an independent neighborhood or community, but rather exists as a single street in an already existing community within the city of Woodland Park. This is more than a simple nitpicking of semantics, By the meaning of words, we form our opinions, we define our perspectives, and we build our interpretations. The concept of neighborhood implies far more topographic independence, autonomy, than a single road actually possesses. Hence, a neighborhood might form an HOA, whereas it is financially impractical to consider a single street as HOA qualifying. Thirdly, I am concerned about the intention of residents who will specifically seek out private road entry in the midst of a public road neighborhood. This is not in my letter. I appreciate the price parameter that's been shared, and in some ways it might seem that that would negate it. But there are many high-value properties that are used for illicit purposes in neighborhoods, and my fear is that this private road will, in fact, almost set a red flag saying, hey, if you've got something to hide or something to do that's not great, this is the place. The police cannot patrol it regularly. Anyway, while this may seem like a frivolous concern, current news frequently refers to illegal activities that have taken place within the walls of private residences. The inability of police to patrol this private road makes me somewhat uneasy, and, in my estimation, may potentially attract those who engage in homebound illicit activity. Lastly, I did a little research, and the online magazine Timber Home Living has researched private road living and states that home builders typically seek to create a private road for one of four reasons. A, necessary access. B, a sense of exclusivity to their properties. C, a sense of seclusion. Or D, the local government is unwilling to undertake the expense of providing a road. A private road designation for Highland Courts Road does not fit any of these situations. The Paradise neighborhoods already have necessary access. There are multiple exclusive properties along the existing public roadways, and any sense of seclusion will be significantly diminished by the construction of homes along Rockland Way, which will sit directly above Highland Courts, as well as the already intersecting neighborhood roads in close proximity. I can appreciate, and there's probably a sense of frustration on Mr. McNabb's part at these ongoing public processes. He may even feel like he is an unhappy participant in an endless game of Mother May I. However, we residents in this well-established neighborhood have the same frustration from the opposite perspective. We will also ask mothers for a review. As a point of integrity, responsibility, and even favorable reputation, it seems appropriate that if a builder chooses to undertake construction in an already established area, architectural continuity throughout. And a consistent friendliness factor. We do not or, as a future possibility, encloses its 9 house parameters with a gate and a fence so that it would very much resemble a giant dog run thrust into an otherwise elegant neighborhood. I thank you for your time and consideration of these points before casting your vote.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, Claudia Miller.
I'd like to clarify something that neighbors feel about our subdivision and this long process we've had. We're appreciative of the Planning Commission.
Excuse me, before you start.
I'm Claudia Miller. I live at 810 Majestic Park.
Thank you.
But we're very appreciative of the efforts that have been made. It's been a long process with the Planning Commission, with Mr. McNabb and the bank, and with the City Council. We were originally really concerned about the cluster homes, and it came back to the original 9 homes, and we were very pleased with that. Mrs. Frost had some strong sentiments about the feelings about that area for so long. It's been this beautiful meadow that we've all valued so dearly. And I think that, as she mentioned, the walkers, the bikers, whatever, all of our different subdivisions in that area are so open, and it's given us a feeling that it's going to be cut off, and it doesn't feel really good. We'd rather have it open, not to abuse it, but to just be able to keep that a continuous in harmony with the other neighborhoods. One of the questions that I have just from our last meeting is I was under the understanding these homes are going for a lot of money, $850,000, $750,000, but they're about 2,450 square feet, maybe this first one you were mentioning. Okay.
Yeah, excuse me. Just make your statement,
Okay.
and then we'll go from there.
Okay, and I'll make the statement. Okay, at that, when Mr. McNabb was mentioning, and I really think if you look back on the records or when we were talking outside, I can't remember exactly, I thought it was around 2,500 square feet. So we had heard at our neighborhood meeting that some of the bank people were investors in this area. We were sort of envisioning, and from Mr. Will Brown, who had that area years ago, that some larger high-scale homes were going to go in there. And then the thought has occurred that if these investors from the bank have access to this property, are they going to possibly, we just need clarification from Mr. McNabb. I heard the term rental tonight, trying to limit rentals, but could they have could they be considering putting them into Airbnbs, VRBOs, or as rentals, or even Karis coming in and renting out private homes in there? Because when the original thought was these investors might be building their own homes, big homes up there, but now it sort of appears that they might be sold or built with the intention of having some rentals coming out of it, and that would really change the dynamics of the neighborhood.
Ms. Miller, that's not at all what Mr. McNabb said, if you heard his presentation. But go ahead.
Well, it's a back thought because it hasn't been, in our process, this has not been transparent in the beginning. So we've had a lot of issues with the lack of transparency. Okay, one thing that was clarified tonight that we really appreciate is the fact that Mr. McNabb is considering having put in a speed, some type of speed signs, and maybe a construction warning or something coming up our neighborhood. When they put in the roads for Laughlin Way, one of the neighbors counted 80 trips with those trucks going up and down. And we're kind of envisioning a build out of 3 to 4 years. We remember when Mr. Brown had developed that area, the pit holes in the street and the damage that occurred, and we're wondering if the city is prepared during that process to repair our road, because Majestic is going to be used so extensively, and we're going to be experiencing the damage there. Also, we wondered, and I mentioned to Mr. McNabb at our last meeting, because there are 2 entrances coming in, could some of the traffic that's coming in on Majestic be diverted over to Thunder Ridge so that the streets have a little bit more equal impact from the damage? Excessive speed was a point, and we talked about that. The police have been up there, and we will try and monitor that the best we can, but it is a concern to us. Something about the HOA. Typically, from my understanding, HOAs are developed for much larger neighborhoods, and this is going to be a 3 to 4 year build out to get those 9 homes in there. So for all the benefits that we hear on this HOA, when is it really going to be realized? And it doesn't seem to be very practical in the interim to put an HOA in there. Who's going to be, you get 1 or 2 homes and they're buying thinking they're having an HOA, but if it's a 3 to 4 year build out, that could be an issue. So I don't know, maybe those are some issues that we have.
Thank you very much for your input. Mark, I will let you respond after I see if there's anybody else in the audience that would like to weigh in. If not, Mark, I'll give you a minute or two, or Tony, to weigh in on those issues, and then we'll move forward.
Tony Perry, 330 Ponderosa Court. I am actually, my wife, one of the investors in North Peak Properties, for disclosure. And Ms. Miller, I would characterize this process, we definitely appreciate the neighbors. I think there's been a lot of good feedback. And if you observe the process and actually objectively look at the process, I think as developers we've responded to pretty much every concern that came up. I will say that one of the first homes going in there is the majority owner of the bank, and so there are significant parties that we're expecting to come into that property. And the reason she's moving to Woodland Park is because with her banks, with the bank's history and her family being in banking since the 1870s, she wants to land in this community for her retirement, for her end of life. So these aren't criminals coming in, which some of the neighbors have characterized that there will be criminals moving into the neighborhood. That's not going to happen. We did not, it was very difficult because I think I've stated before, filing 2, which is still, Park State Bank and Trust still has 8 lots there. We worked really hard to preserve the integrity of that neighborhood. The bank spent almost $1 million preserving that integrity. When we looked objectively at the market and looked at going up Rockland Way and into this court, I would love to say that we want to invest another $1 million in pavers. But I will tell you the pavers that we have up there already were never paid for. We're part of bankruptcy. So let's be realistic in the marketplace. That's just reality. On the drainage, and Mr. Bramlett has done an excellent job at least 6 times now explaining that. I want to be very clear. Part of that $1 million was a lot of money to make sure that the stormwater drainage plan was done right and that the neighbors were not affected even before we were able to start selling lots. The damage that came from another property, the previous developer that we discussed. So be clear on that. In terms of the HOA, the option here and the private road, we're building it above city specs because it's very possible we may want to deed that over to the city at some point. But right now, with the neighbors that we think we're recruiting, the first 2 customers that are building in there with very nice finishes, we think that the biggest concern is now that we, with the previous configuration, which we backed off of because of the neighbors' concerns, we, through that cul-de-sac, if you will, also had access up to the National Forest. When we went back down to 9, we had to eliminate that access. But we wanted to make sure that we had access, of course, on Rockland Way because it's the right thing to do. The other thing to know is, talking about the meadow, that entire property from up Majestic Way used to be an entire meadow. And so, we have to remember this is private property. A lot of money has gone into developing it. A lot of money and effort has gone into doing it right and making it an asset for the community. And if you look at the parties that we have helped recruit into the community, amazing, amazing people that have moved here, and they're not VRBOing their houses. They go to Arizona for the winter and they have someone come in and take care of it. That's what these people are doing. And so I can't afford to live up there. But the reality of it is that we've done it right. One of the things the neighbors don't know, when the bank owned the entire property, we did not put up private property signs to try to limit access because we recognize the importance of community and neighborhood. And in fact, we have 4 to 5 doggy stations that we're going to be planning all the way up through Filing 2, up Rockland Way, to accommodate those of us who have pets and to make that a better process. We actually have a person who goes through there 3 times a week cleaning up the property. And you guys have seen her in her little red truck. So we have taken great care in this process. We respect the neighbors, and in fact, the parties that are going to move in there want to be good neighbors. The person who owns the majority owner of the bank wants to be a great neighbor. She is putting great resources into this infrastructure, doing it right, and it's not going to be some of the characterizations we've heard through this process. We understand the emotionality of it, but other than the pavers, the covenants pretty much stay the same. A private cul-de-sac of approximately, I think you said 300 yards? I don't even think it's that much, 100 yards.
400 feet?
400 feet, a little bit over 100 yards. Other than the neighbor wanting to go in and walk up and down the cul-de-sac with their pets, Rockland Way is a much better pathway that gets them to the SFO. So answer any questions. We are committed to doing this right. We haven't skimped on anything. We've done everything properly. We've followed the guidance of the neighbors. We followed the guidance of the city. We haven't argued against any of it other than trying to assert our private property rights to develop their property just like any neighbor on Majestic had a right to buy their house in Majestic or build their house in Majestic in the past. So, one of the things I'm really concerned with, frankly, when we had the other configuration, we were able to preserve. I'm really concerned about, with this configuration that we were forced into, I'm really concerned about the aspens on the right-hand side as you walk up there, because we really want to preserve those. They're beautiful. I hope we can. We've challenged Mark to do that, but the current configuration limits some of those options and flexibility. So, any questions?
Carol, you have a question?
Well, Tony, it goes back to the HOA and the point that Mrs. Miller made is I'm assuming the developer will maintain that private road until such time the HOA is established.
Yeah, so absolutely, and it will actually be established pretty quickly because, frankly, one of the primary focuses of our owner is she doesn't want to do any maintenance. She wants to pay for it. That's why the HOA.
It's my kind of neighbor.
She doesn't want, she wants it zero maintenance. When she leaves to go to Arizona for the winter, she wants it taken care of and protected. Bottom line. So she'll pay for it herself if she needs to. So I'm guessing the HOA will go in even before all the homes.
But short of that sentiment, the developer will maintain the road.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. He is committed, and we have committed it. Yes, sir.
Could you please speak to the square footage?
The current, yeah.
Every covenant has a minimum square footage. It's hardly ever any homes built at that square footage. Our minimum for in here, because we're doing single level for mostly retirees, that is the popular thing. 7 out of 10 of our customers right now are coming from Texas, Arizona, California. They're baby boomers like me, and they're ready to retire. And so they want single level. Well, with single level, then that makes a bigger footprint, but they don't want 4,500 square feet. So, for example, this first house is 3,150 square feet of house, plus 1,000 square feet of garage. And so that gives you an idea. But, I've been misquoted a lot in this deal. Mayor, you asked me how long it's going to take to build this out. I took that to mean Laughlin and this subdivision because we have those subdivisions to do. This subdivision here will be done in 18 months. It's going to sell in 6 months. We have 4 or 5 other customers right now just waiting to come into it.
You have 2 sold right now, Mark?
2 sold, and we have 3 other customers that are waiting to sign contracts. So there's just been, the paper was inaccurate, quoting me. So, I'm not sure how to answer some of these questions because I'm worried about what to say.
Well,
Just quote it again.
I don't know why you'd be worried about what you say, and it sounds like you're building beautiful homes up there, and I just wondered, since they brought up a square footage question, what is the square footage like? What are the homes like? Sound like they're beautiful homes to me. You have nothing to, apologize for, and certainly sounds like top-notch development.
Let me be transparent about the road. I think the chance of a gate is 5%. I don't think there'll ever be a gate. There may be a sign that says guests only coming in, which is similar to what someone suggested. But right now, crime is increasing on construction sites in this town. Over in the middle of town, a very qualified builder had cameras up. Guys didn't know it, pulled up in a big four-wheel drive, went and cut all the locks on the trailer, hooked it up, towed it off. We've been robbed 4 times, and we've been robbed in Paradise. So the mentality of these people coming in on these 9 lots, we want a private road. We don't want this kind of thing coming in on our road that's happening everywhere around. I'm shocked that it's happening up in Paradise because it's a beautiful community, but it is happening. So there's a lot more reasons to have an HOA than just we don't want anybody driving up the road. But think about it. You get in your car, you live down on one of the other streets, get in your car, drive up 400 feet, turn around and drive out. That doesn't make sense to have that as an accessibility for necessarily the public if there's other good reasons to have a private road.
Thank you, sir.
I'd like to make one more comment. I would say the possibility of a gate is probably less than what Mark thinks, because the person that's paying for all this, driving this whole boat, is about the most down-to-earth, unassuming person you would ever meet. She doesn't want to, she's not an exclusive type person. She is not flashy. She's a ranch girl who grew up in Colorado with her family, again, having roots back to the 1870s, and that's not what she's about. She will fit in well with this neighborhood, and she's looking forward to meeting the neighbors. So, thank you.
Tony, thanks very much. Council, any other questions? We don't have anything else from the audience tonight. Val?
Miles, just to clarify for the public, you have no restrictions. Obviously, you can, law enforcement can go up on that road.
It is private property, much like Hiker's Way down by Research Drive. It's private property, privately maintained. If we get called down there, we will respond.
I guess that's what I meant.
Not the only. This would not be the only private road that we have in town.
But if you get a call, you'll
absolutely
in the city.
Absolutely.
And you will be patrolling Majestic Parkway as you always do?
Yes.
Anything else? Okay, thank you everybody for your input, and we will move forward with a motion. Two motions, right? You want to put those back up there and we'll just restate those for us? Thank you, Laura. One has a condition and one does not. Thank you. Okay. Motion number 1.
I do want to say something before we go into these motions. I do understand what you're feeling because I live over by the golf course, and we had this beautiful view of the golf course. We had an open lot. And in the last 6 months, now we look at a house. So I understand what you're feeling, but they're allowed to build that house there, and I couldn't stop it. I tried to buy the lot, but they didn't want to sell it to me. So I understand what you're going through, but they're allowed to build this stuff. It's their land, and they're going to build beautiful houses, and I think it's just going to make the Paradise even look even better. So, but I do understand what you're going through, but they are doing a really quality job here, and it sounds like they've gone above and beyond what normal developers do to accommodate your concerns. So, but it sounds like, based on what Mr. Perry was saying, is that things are going to go really well for you, and it'll be a beautiful neighborhood. So,
thank you, sir. Any other comments? If not, the motion.
Move to approve City Council, or to approve Highlands and the Paradise Final plat as described in the staff report, subject to recording covenants with plat.
Have a second?
Second, as presented.
Thank you, Suzanne.
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar? Yes. Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 6-0.
I'll let you continue, Carol.
Move to accept the guarantee in the form of an irrevocable letter of credit as presented.
Second.
Thank you.
Just to be clear, we got that presented to us, not in this presentation, but
Correct.
otherwise, so
We
it's
have
public
seen it.
record.
Yes, we have seen it.
Anybody was-
$160-some
Yeah.
thousand.
$156,000 plus.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Harvey?
Yes.
Labar? Yes. Levy?
Yes.
Saunier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. And Mark, thank you. Tony, thank you. And the folks that came in opposition, here's the way I see it. I have no skin in this game, if you will. It appears to me that you've got a developer that is willing to do anything he can within reason to accommodate your concerns. And so keep that line of communication open. Tony Perry is a good friend. He's a great business guy. Nobody does more for this community than Park State Bank. And I'll guarantee you this. I will guarantee anything that you want to talk about, he'll be there for you. He may not say yes, but he will be there and be willing to communicate. I know Mark is the same way. And so feel comfortable in that regard that you have a great team that you can work with, and they may not, right? They may not agree to all your concerns, but they're there for you, and they're going to do everything they can for you. And so that said, good luck to you, Mark and Tony, and everybody in that neighborhood. I see it for you all really as an opportunity for your property values to increase dramatically also. And I may not be seeing that right, but that's just from my own eye. So thank you very much, and we will move on.
Mayor Levy, if I may just say that we do have the plat here, and with council's approval, it is ready for your execution.
Great. I was already told I was going to have to stay late tonight. Okay, we'll move on. And Chrissy Stapleford, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Chrissy Stapleford, Deputy City Clerk. First thing I want to discuss is there is some new legislation regarding fermented malt beverages, and I gave you all a handout for it. So now in grocery stores and convenience stores, they can sell full-strength fermented malt beverages. So if you guys have any questions on that, let me know. All right, so tonight we have a public hearing for a new liquor license. The applicant is WP Beverage LLC. Their DBA is Valero, located at 520 US Highway 24. The applicant has current sales tax license. They are eligible to apply for a liquor license. The location is eligible to be licensed. The owner is WP Beverage LLC, and Wesley Newell is in attendance this evening if you guys have any questions for him. Possession of the property is documented by a lease through October 12th, 2019.
Sorry. Go ahead.
The application was submitted on October 31st, 2018. The property was posted in the December 12th edition of the Courier. Character of the applicant is not an issue for this hearing, and the operation of the business is in compliance with local zoning, building, and fire regulations, and all applicable fees have been paid. Do you have any questions for me or the applicant?
Council? No questions. We are in public meeting right now. Does anybody want to come forward and speak in this regard? If you do, then please come to the podium. Bob will take your name and address, and we'll treat you like everybody else.
Bob Volpe, 109 Coraline Street, Woodland Park. What's the name of the business? The store?
Valero gas station.
Oh, the gas station.
Thank you, sir.
Any rebuttal?
Yeah, we'll do any rebuttal with that. Go ahead. Please.
Wow. Wow, the news media comes to us.
Not your first big rodeo, is it, Norma?
That's a good question.
Good.
We don't want to go there again.
No, we don't.
It's got to be.
Norma Engelberg. What is my address?
You can just give this town.
2732 West Bijou Street, Colorado Springs. I just wondered, now the applicant that we have says 3.2 beer, but is this full strength?
It is full strength.
Just clarifying.
Application was done before the law change, so law change from January.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else with public comment? Okay. Council, if nothing else, we'll call for motion to approve the liquor license for WP Beverage.
Motion to approve liquor license for WP Beverage LLC.
A second, and also a thanks to the applicant for patiently waiting for us to get to this agenda item.
Suzanne?
Thank you. It's Labar? Yes. Levy?
Yes.
Sonier?
Yes.
Sawyer?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Harvey?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you, Suzanne. We have no new business tonight, so we'll move on to reports. I have a couple of events, and first and foremost, looking forward, as I know DDA is, and the council, to the DDA and City Summit, which will be next week, July 9th at 5 o'clock in this, January 9th in this room?
Yes, sir.
In this room at 5 o'clock. And that'll take a couple hours that day. We're going to limit it to a couple hours and move forward as we need to. Thursday, January 10th, 11:30 to 1, Chamber Lunch and Learn, Changing Technology at the UPass Cultural Center. And technology is always changing, is it not? Should have a good turnout for that. And then Tuesday, January 15th, from 5:30 to 7, that month's Chamber of Business After Hours will be hosted at the Design Center of Woodland Park. That's all I have, Val.
Nothing else. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Carol?
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Val? I'm no, sorry. Hillary?
Nothing this evening.
Back and forth. Nothing. Paul?
Yeah, thanks everybody for coming and participating, and have a Happy New Year.
Mr. Sawyer?
Happy New Year.
Did I see a new car in the parking lot?
Yes, you did.
Very cool. Can I have a ride someday?
Sure, you can take it.
Is that the one you were test driving when we were talking?
Yes.
Okay. We have no city attorney tonight, so we'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would like to seek City Council approval for the document, or City Council consensus approval of the critical information requirements document that I sent to City Council during the last meeting in December. Really, the primary document that affects City Council and City staff in terms of communications is the first page, the red, which outlines 9 different criteria in terms of different issues that we've outlined for City Council and staff, what you would expect staff to communicate to you in the event that any of these would occur. So, subject to your questions, it really just talks about the who, what, when, and why, when you want us to communicate these issues to you, and by when. So, subject to your questions, that's all I would have.
Are you looking for anything from us other than that? Just consensus. Go ahead, Val.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. So, just bottom line up for us, our obligations are, as City Council?
It's really staff's obligations to the city council on what we will communicate to you. This is the minimum communication requirements. We will often communicate above and beyond this, but this would be the communication requirements and expectations we would set between staff communications to the city council.
I did notice there's some acknowledge parameters in here for email and for phone.
Correct. Like
you would like us to be responsive.
Correct. We'd like to know that under these issues, these very critical issues, that you received it so that we know that you have if you don't receive it by email, we would want to make sure we call you and inform you that way.
All 7 of us.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you. Anyone else? Carol?
No, I think this is a great initiative. As you can imagine, I'm very familiar with critical information requirements. I've helped develop them several commands, but the one that I thought I might ask you to modify was number 7. It talks about an active shooter, an event requiring first responders at a city facility. Wouldn't we want to do that, an active shooter at any facility within the city limits?
I can make that. I mean, it's any city facility. So you're saying any facility within the city limits, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, we'd like to know if we're being shot at.
Well, it's...
Is that different than the language?
What it says now is active shooter event requiring first responders at a city facility, capitalize the word city, so I'm assuming you're talking about city hall or city-owned.
Sure.
I'd want to know if there was an active shooter anywhere within the city limits.
Sure, we can do that. We can make that modification. Feel comfortable with that. Yeah.
We can do that. I mean, the reality is I'm probably going to be there with the officers to take care of the problems, so there might be a little bit of a delay.
Sure.
But yes, we'll let you
We communicate, yes.
Facebook will know about it.
We'll make that modification.
Okay, thank you.
So with that modification, is there any other recommended changes?
Thanks for your work on that. That's something we've needed, and now we have it. Noel?
I was just going to say a side note is that I was hoping that council could get more information from staff. I feel like we're not getting enough emails to know what's going on. I'm sorry, I just feel that way. I mean, I see a lot of things going on with the police department. I have no idea what's going on. And so I was hoping I could get more information, and if that's possible, maybe we can talk about that offline.
Yeah. Are you receiving the press releases that we send out prior to the release?
Everybody is.
Okay. So we send them out to city council prior to...
Right, I understand that part, but there's, there's probably a lot of things going on behind the scenes that I was hoping we would be more privy to than...
We don't get to know.
Look at you.
What?
I don't want to know, right?
Miles will tell you.
If I may, well, you don't want to mess with anything that has to do with potential collection of evidence in a
No, I understand that
civil
part.
or criminal case, but with this establishment of a baseline, the beauty of CIRs is that it's a living document, and as we discover other things that we may want to add to this baseline, I would assume we could...
This is a side note to that document.
And you're talking about something specific. Chief, let's just inform us as to what can be said.
Miles is going to be up next. He's going to make some comments. If you'd like to comment about this in the consent item. Okay. Yeah, if you're talking about the ongoing case.
I'm talking about a lot of it. It's a bigger picture. I'm talking what's going on with, what's going on with Public Works, what's going on with Mike, what's going on more with the city, because I feel like I'm left out a little bit.
That's a good point, and I will tell you, I'm working with Chrissy to modify the monthly report that you see in your packets.
Right.
I'm going to make it. I'm just trying to standardize it, and I'll provide an executive summary essentially in the beginning of it that will go to all city council. That will talk about the goings-ons of all the departments, so that you're updated on those stats and the specific events that I feel city council should be aware of.
That's perfect, because in the past I would have to go to Kip and talk to Kip to know what was going on. I'd have to go talk to Mike personally, and so I don't have that time nowadays like I used to.
I'll make sure that you get the executive summary of the most critical points of it. So, if you want to read the entire 8-page document, you're welcome to do that as well. But we'll get that to you. That's something in the works right now. Another modification to the existing reporting.
So I read your mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
On the agenda, we have Mike going next. You want to go to the chief first? If I can, I'd like to get with the modification, city council consensus that this is the document.
Absolutely, but what will be the best way for us to suggest perhaps additions or deletions to the CIRs?
It would be directly to me if you have recommendations for additions to this.
I can't think of any right now. I just wanted to make the point that this is a dynamic and living document.
And I'll bring it back for, if there's major modifications, bring it back for city council approval. Sounds good. I think we have consensus. Okay. I will touch on a few other things that I want to touch before I pass it on to Mike and Miles. First, one item that we're looking at, we will kick off our first annual Citizens Academy. All the city council have a copy of the draft calendar or schedule for the Citizens Academy starting on February 13th. It will go between February 13th through April 3rd. We will take 1 week off because of the spring break, so parents can, if parents are involved in the Citizens Academy, they can take that'll be the week of March 27th. It will end. Let's go over it real quick. We'll begin with Local Government 101. We're essentially talking about the administration, city council duties and responsibilities, and we'll move on to we'll have a finance overview, city clerk overview. Go on week 2, buildings, roads, drainage. We'll touch on public works, streets, roads, and engineering. Week 3, we'll talk about planning and zoning and building. Week 4 will be about water and wastewater utilities, or water utilities, and then week 5 will be wastewater utilities. Week 6 will be the police department, and then week 7 will be Parks and Rec. And then the final event will be a city council meeting that the Citizen Academy participants will participate in, and they'll graduate at that point.
What are your expectations from mayor and council?
We will invite all city council members to attend. You can attend. These will be published meetings, so you'll be able to attend. The very first one will be a Q&A. We'll provide a Q&A. We'll ask the mayor to provide a background on city council duties and responsibilities there, and city council members that are there can answer questions of the participants in the Citizens Academy on their experiences as city council members. Other than that, we would just invite the city council to attend the event, each one of the 7 events, and if you can't make it, that's fine. You will be scheduled as a public meeting.
How are we going to publicize it? Is the newspaper, are they aware? What are we going to do to get participation?
Well, first here, and second, it will be in social media, and we will get it published in the paper.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Suzanne and I and some other department heads 6 months ago or so talked about workshops, council department workshops. I think we're looking at it as something more extensive than this, maybe not, I don't know. I've been really thrilled at the concept that was brought forth at that point. Is there any thought to, in addition to this from a community standpoint, is involving the council with workshops? You can...
Yeah, I actually, thank you for that question, have a list of some of them that you and I spoke about and other council members have asked about. We wanted to get through the budget. Now that we're through the budget, we will start scheduling those work sessions, which will be different than the topics in the Citizens Academy.
Yeah, terrific. Okay. Appreciate that.
We do, if you have any questions about these departments, we're going to send out personal invitations to a lot of members of the community who we feel would benefit from this, and this will be open to the public to apply to this. But there's a lot of great opportunities here if you don't know how to, the complexity of water resource issues or water treatment issues. This is an opportunity for our entire community to come out and get to learn about what our employees do, what the police department does, what public works, utilities, all of that. It's a great opportunity to get a better understanding of how we provide services to the community.
Darren, many years ago, I participated in a similar academy down in Colorado Springs when we lived there. There was a citizenship requirement and also an age requirement. Are we going to look at that, or do you think it's necessary?
At this time, we are limiting it to 18 or older, but I don't necessarily want to limit it to only residents of Woodland Park. I think one of the benefits I saw in the previous Citizens Academy that I ran, we invited elected officials, state representatives. They participated, county commissioners. If they don't live with them, they could benefit from understanding what we provide as services so that they can better serve our needs as our county elected officials. So there's a lot of great opportunities to go outside of the community, and I think that, so I wouldn't want to limit that. one of the things we do plan on doing, we're looking at as a future initiative, is taking this to the high school and doing this as an abbreviated version in the civics class to our high school students, giving them an opportunity to understand what the community provides in terms of services, and then opening up possible opportunities for high school internships during the summer that they can build volunteer hours for college applications. So that's one opportunity. Another one would be to use an abbreviated version of this as an onboarding for new city council members, so that if you haven't had an opportunity to actually participate in the Citizens Academy, that we could use this to help onboard new council members.
That goes to my next question, which was recording and streaming them, putting them, getting them in a digital form that could be repeated.
So we plan on, we're not going to live stream. We don't plan to live stream, but we do plan to record these events and use it in promoting the next Citizens Academy, so that we do plan on recording the entire events.
Good.
Subject to your questions on the Citizens Academy schedule, I'm going to move on to one other issue before I pass it on to Mike in finance, and that is on the 8th of January we are conducting our city attorney interviews. Those are open to the public. Those will begin at 5 p.m. here in, I believe, in city council chambers or upstairs. We have not quite decided yet. So, all right.
On that, when I was reading that schedule, are you expecting us to be here for that many hours?
We've invited you to the luncheon, so you can do a meet and greet during the lunch portion.
I saw that part.
We will take them on a tour after the luncheon, and then we'll begin, in the interest of getting all the city council members at the interview process. Those begin at 5. But we also wanted to make sure they understood all, the complexity of the city. We're able to go see what we provide as services, because they'll be serving us in the legal capacity for all those. So
12 and 5.
Correct. So those two time frames were when we invite city council to be present.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying, because when I looked at that, I was like,
unless you want to go on the interviews, but not interviews. The tours, that will be done by a director. We'll take each one of the candidates on an interview, on a tour of the city.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to pass this to Mike for his report.
Hey, Mayor and Council, you have in your packet the third quarter financial report for the city's funds. It's in your packet. It's also going to be on the city's website, so I'll just highlight a few things. First of all, in all the funds, revenues are either meeting or exceeding expectations, other than in the Culture and Recreation Center, and that's primarily the Woodland Aquatic Center. When we first put together the budget, we were very open about, this is our first year, and we'll see how it goes as we move through the year. But for instance, in the general fund, expenditures are at 66% of the total budget, 75% of the way through the year. That's very typical in any given year. We expect to come in under budget as we modified the budget with our supplemental appropriation at the end of last year. On the revenue side, 82% of the general fund budget is received, again, 75% of the way through the year, so that's revenues are doing well, primarily led by sales tax, which is 6% in the third quarter as of September 30th. I've also sent out, and it was also in your packet, the sales tax report for October, and we're still at that 6%, or a little better than 6% higher than the previous year, so sales tax is doing very well. Overall, in the general fund, we are 4% ahead of 2017. Another thing that I'd like to then point out and go to is the Culture and Recreation Fund. There's the three parts. There's the Parks and Recreation budget, the Cultural Center budget, and the Aquatic Center budget. As far as revenues go, Parks and Recreation and Cultural Center, they are meeting or exceeding what we had planned for, because we had the experience with those two. Woodland Aquatic Center, we're at 53%, again, 75% of the way through the year. Our revenue projections when we put together the 2018 budget were higher than what we're actually experiencing. There's more detail to the revenues and expenditures broken out by the different revenues, and also the expenditures broken out by salary and benefits and purchase service. And I also broke out utilities out of that, highlighted on the expenditure side where we're at. And I've communicated that to you in each quarterly report, how utilities were, we really underestimated utilities in the Woodland Aquatic Center. As far as the other funds, they're all detailed in here. There's explanations of all the variances that are pretty significant within this report, and it's there for you to read, but if you had a chance to read it because it was in your packet, if you have any questions.
Mike, part of our issue with utilities was because of the boiler at the Woodland Aquatic Center.
That was an issue as how the expenses were coming in, but the other issue is it was an estimate, and we talked to the contractor and what their estimate was, and also research of other like facilities, and we just under budgeted the utilities based on our limited experience with that.
Yeah, understand that, Kip, or Ben, maybe you can help us understand where we are with that boiler process and how that's going. Thank you.
While he's coming up, Mike, the only positions that were impacted by the new minimum wage were with the aquatic center?
Basically, the lifeguard positions were the only ones impacted in the citywide by the increase in minimum wage, and that was a 9% increase.
Expect 9% increases at all your local stores, too. That's going to be a hard,
you're just going to
hard one for everybody. Sorry, Ben, go ahead.
That's all right. So the last I heard over the boiler, that once they replaced the control unit and some of the sensors, that we haven't had the shutout issues that we've had before. So we'll keep monitoring that and making sure that it works. And then once we get that, we can establish a baseline for what these utility costs should be, and maybe look at how we can correct that for the future. There's some other issues that we've been looking at for warranties, covering the whole building and the wall, that we're still resolving right now, but we're trying. Sorry?
Fill them in on the wall situation.
Fill me in on the walls.
So the wall situation is the north retaining wall that is not part of the permit for the aquatic center building. We found some cracking in that, and we feel that it still should be covered under the warranty, and so we're looking at how we can move forward. The recommendation from the structural engineer from A&P suggested that we could drill weep holes as a first measure, and then do an additional French drain on the top of the wall as a second measure. But the main thing that we had all come to the conclusion with is to not push snow, or speak with the high school about pushing snow on top of that wall to start mitigating those problems, and then keep observing that. But the main issue is we want to make sure that if any defects were found, that they were covered under the warranty for that wall.
West
the edge of the retaining wall, which is draining down behind it and expands and tracks it because it freezes and warms up. So we're going to address that with them so that they don't push the snow during the time process.
Just so I understand, this is the retaining wall, retaining the parking lot?
Correct.
No parking between the parking lot and the retaining wall? Nor was there any parking required in the contract? Or
caulking?
There is an existing restraint behind. It's already in there, correct?
Yeah, correct. It's 3/4 minus. It's behind it's the aggregate that's behind the weep holes that are there, and then there's stress joints in the wall. Okay.
Thank you, Ben.
Yep.
Mike, anything else? Thank you very much. Chief?
Council, staff, diehard citizens. One of our CIRs that the city manager and I talked about earlier was to talk about this case. And just right up front, I'm just going to answer the question on this case. You're not going to know a lot about it, period. It's a criminal investigation. A lot of times people are just curious based on their own personal curiosity, and they want to know what's going on, and I'm not going to tell you. And that's just kind of how it's going to be. We've got over 24 interviews that we're still working on, to finish on this case. Not everything's out in the open yet because there's still a lot of stuff going on in the background. I want to remind everybody that Patrick is still innocent until proven guilty. Just like when we were working on the Texas 7 case or bank robberies, it's going to take us months and months of work to finish these cases. Starting on a positive note, though, Kelsey's brother Clinton started an Amazon baby register, and as of 12:30 today, 259 items have been purchased. I tried to print out the list, but it was 27 pages long, so I figured I'd leave that at the office. But that's pretty incredible just to see the support that's coming in for that family. The case has been pretty rough on our personnel. Some people have worked 18 days straight until we had Patrick in custody. Got a long ways to go with a lot of investigative leads, both in Colorado and in Idaho. And it's stretched us pretty thin, but we're heading in the right direction at this point. Just to let you know, Woodland Park hasn't had a homicide in about 20 years. And at the same time, we've set a new record with our police department for 2018. We pulled 1,639 cases this last year, keeping everything else running in the background while we're working on this case. So we're doing a pretty good job there. And with all certainty, I can say that we wouldn't be where we're at without all of our partners. Teller County Sheriff's Office, Search and Rescue, the El Paso County Sheriff's Office, Colorado Springs PD and their Crime Analysis Unit, the District Attorney's Office, the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, as well as our partners with the FBI and the folks that are out in Idaho working with us. So we've got a lot of people that have come together to help us out with this case, and it's been incredible just the amount of support that we've had. Just to give you an idea, I was managing over 68 different news agencies requesting information on this case. Just today I got another request for information from a news agency out of the UK. So I mean, internationally this case has drawn way more attention than I thought it would. And I'm happy to pass a lot of those requests on to the District Attorney's Office and their PIO. There's a lot of unanswered questions with this case. I've still got a lot of questions that I'm trying to get answered at this point. And ultimately, we're still looking for Kelsey. We have not found her at this point. And no, I don't believe she's alive. And so we're trying to locate her. Documents will be unsealed by the courts at some point, and then it'll be clear to everybody why this case has been so challenging for us. I just want to close and just thank everybody that's helped us out, the police department personnel, the city staff, and employees, the city council. This case has been exhausting, but we can see the light at the end of the tunnel. So thanks for everybody's support. If you have any questions, I can maybe answer a few of them, but I'm just very limited on what I can talk about with this case because it is an active criminal case.
Miles, first, thank you so much from the community and from me personally. But at this point, all of the media inquiries are to be directed to the DA.
Correct. Okay. The DA's Public Information Officer, Lee Richards, is taking that one on.
Good.
I'm okay with that. Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thanks, sir.
Appreciate it. Anything else, Darren? Okay. Council, I have nothing else. Anybody have anything else?
Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. This meeting's adjourned. 1:09, 9:01. I thought 9 o'clock.